As you may or may not know, WoW Classic is not the same game that came out back in 2004. Minor details aside, Classic basically mirrors the last patch, 1.12 to be exact, before the Burning Crusade was released in 2007. The 3-year run of vanilla WoW took the game from a somewhat broken, sort of unpolished state to the monumental game that everybody remembers fondly. And that's not even mentioning the huge changes the game went through during the public beta. So let's take a look back on the 12 major patches that made WoW Classic the success it was and still is today. One of the biggest changes in 1.1 was the removal of plains running. You see, plains running was basically the mount replacement for Tauren. Around level 40, when everybody else was getting their 60% mounts, Tauren had the same speed, but they never actually got a mount. You see, over 10 seconds of running, they would build up to the speed of a mount. Normal mounts could be cast in 3 seconds, and Tauren needed 10 seconds of running to even get up to that speed, because they didn't want it to break in PvP. If players stopped moving at any point in this 10 seconds, they would lose the buff. It was just kind of a mess in general, and it didn't really work out. Blizzard originally stated that Tauren were too large for mounts, but the community spoke out. They really wanted Kodos to be the Tauren mount, and that was an easy solution. Res sickness was really harsh back in the early days of WoW. In version 1.0, you used to take an experience loss, and then they eventually changed that in 1.1 to break all of your equipment when you rezzed at the Spirit Healer. Mind control used to not flag you for PvP, so you could mind control people off the boat or the Zeppelin and not face any consequences. Druids didn't even have their iconic resurrection spell until version 1.1. Before 1.1, you would stay mounted while polymorphed. It was pretty funny to see a sheep riding a horse, and it was really easy to get away from mages when the polymorph ended. Resurrect used to teleport you to the caster's current location, which meant that a priest could res you, levitate off a cliff, and then you would come back and fall to your death. You used to be able to control an entire herd of Kodo if you tamed the leader. Rogues used to be able to sap you indefinitely. You would literally be stuck in one spot until the rogue got bored of it. Similar to sap, you could be feared forever. This was around the time when they realized that CC should have diminishing returns. Warlocks used to be able to kill players in duels. I'm not exactly sure what the background of this is, but maybe it's something about dots still sticking on you when the duel ended. I don't know, there's not much documentation on this. Drunk effects were greatly enhanced. Now there isn't much mention of what they actually enhanced. I'm thinking the visual part of the effect, but who knows. Added the golf clap command. This is one of the very few commands that they added post-release of the game, and for good reason. Skipping over 1.4 because there wasn't anything too interesting to share. Before version 1.5, wands used to be single cast. You have to press the wand button after every single cast instead of queuing it up as a normal attack. Usually when you were drunk, the game would throw in H's after a lot of the S's you typed, but this caused some unintentional profanity, and they didn't really clean it up until version 1.6. Battlemasters were introduced in 1.6. I'm mentioning some actual content here because it was a huge pain having to go to the site of every battleground when you wanted to queue for it. It meant you couldn't queue for multiple battlegrounds at a time, and you basically just had to sit outside Warsaw Gulch all day if you wanted to play that. 1.7 is when they caught on to some sneaky macros and added a global cooldown to weapon swaps. Previously, people had a macro that would swap their weapon to the highest damage one they had anytime they cast a skill and then immediately swap back. That was obviously a lapse in judgment, so they took it out. Shields used to protect against environmental damage, which had some tricky uses, but wasn't too big of a loss overall. Around this time, the game was getting more stable in general, and most of the major issues were worked out. So we're going to jump ahead to 1.10 and see what happened there. Getting hit by a snowball while in flight used to instantly teleport you to your destination. Even though it was unintentional, it was kind of a cool bug to see. People could even make a little bit of money sitting next to a flight master offering instant flight pass and then chucking their snowballs at people that got on. Little known fact, but shamans weren't just the masters of water walking, they were also the masters of air walking. They could drop a sentry totem while they were falling and just completely stop midair. That brings us to the final major patch in vanilla WoW. Yeah, a lot of content was released in between, but I'm not covering that. I'm only talking about the weird stuff. You know how sometimes people are asking in chat how to leave a group or a channel and some troll says /G quit and then you see them leave their guild? Well yeah, this happened for guild masters too, and there was no confirmation dialogue when you typed the guild disband command. That brings us to where we are today. WoW Classic has been out for the public for a little while now, and the reception has been incredible. Whether you're a new player, old veteran, or have never even touched the game, it's easy to see how radically WoW changed MMOs, and even video games in general. So go out there and enjoy the game, just be glad you're not playing version 1.0.